Hello, I'm Rita McGrath of the Columbia Business School in the city of New York, and I'm very excited to be joining you at the Strategy Leaders Forum, April 27th in Dubai. Well, the reaction by CEOs to the book, The End of Competitive Advantage, it kind of falls into three buckets. The first bucket are people who are kind of in denial. They're wanting to live in a world that is rapidly changing and they're kind of clinging to the past. I call that nostalgia as business strategy, and that's not a really good place to be. The second bucket are people who are kind of panicked. They're just, oh my God, the world is falling and we need to change, but we're not quite sure what to do. Let's change everything really quickly. And that's not great either, because you need focus. You need to really pay attention to the most important signals in your environment. So the third category of CEOs, who I hope will be well represented in the Strategic Leaders Forum, are people who see the end of advantage as a real opportunity to create new markets, to explore new technologies, to get into new kinds of customer services. And so they've been almost relieved to find that it's okay not to have a sustainable competitive advantage, that if you can build a pipeline of transient advantages, you can still have a very successful organization. Well, discovery-driven planning is fundamentally an approach that creates a plan to learn rather than having to have all the information when you first set out to create a venture or do a new business. So when I think of the opportunities that there are in the Middle East for businesses to grow, there's the dilemma that in a lot of cases you don't have the information that you'd really like to have to, for example, project the size of a market or anticipate what the customer reaction to some kind of new technology is going to be. So what I recommend in those situations is you set up a series of key checkpoints, where a checkpoint is a deliberate moment in time when you're going to learn something. And you set out your hypotheses, we call those assumptions, and when you get to the checkpoint, you try to convert those assumptions into knowledge as quickly and as cheaply as you can. And so step by step, as your knowledge increases, you can increase your confidence that you're making the right choices. So there are many ways in which this discovery-driven growth idea is extremely relevant to the Middle East. So one of the things I talk about a lot in my book, The End of Competitive Advantage, and which we'll be touching on in the Strategy Leaders Forum, is this whole question of how do you find the early warning signs that something is about to go wrong in your strategy? And there are a few that I would encourage people to really think hard about. So are you investing more and not getting back in terms of margin or loyalty or customer interest what you'd hoped to? Are good people leaving your operation? Are the best people not really being willing to work there? Are customers telling you that competing offerings that are maybe cheaper are good enough? They don't really need that level of sophistication anymore. And I think there are ways you can tackle this, but it requires a certain amount of organizational finesse. So one of the most successful firms I know that has done a great job of this is Dow Corning. They make silicates. And they have two divisions. One is a very bespoke, very innovative, very high science kind of division. That's the Dow Corning brand. And then they have a brand they call Diameter. And those are for products which have gone into commoditization. They're no longer the really innovative products, and their customers aren't really willing to pay for them. But by exploring a low-cost model with this dual brand strategy, they've been able to do a great job of managing both healthy growing businesses and businesses that are going into erosion. So in closing, I'm really looking forward to sharing some of these ideas with some of the most significant leaders in the region when we get there in the spring, and having very high-level strategic conversations about how the world is changing and what the opportunities can truly be.